Penguin Random House Audio presents The Mistresses of Cliveden, 3 Centuries of Scandal, Power and Intrigue in an English Stately Home, by Natalie Livingstone, read for you by Elizabeth Knowelden. Introduction. On the sultry night of 8th of July 1961, the 19-year-old showgirl Christine Keeler was in the swimming pool at Cliveden when she heard voices approaching from the terrace. She had been larking about with her friend Stephen Ward, who rented a cottage at the foot of the estate, a law student called Noel Howard Jones, and a pretty young hitchhiker whom the 3 of them had picked up on the drive down from London. Usually, Ward asked permission to use the pool from the estate's owner, Bill Astor, but tonight Bill was occupied by a more sober dinner party in the main house. The pool was tucked away in a walled garden on the west side of the property, so the group thought nothing of going for an impromptu swim without giving Astor prior warning. The party grew raucous, and at some point Keeler shed her swimsuit in a bet. Up at the main house, the company at dinner included Field Marshal Ayub Khan, President of Pakistan, John Profumo, Secretary of State for War, and his film star wife, Valerie. The hosts were Bill Astor, who had inherited the house from his parents Waldorf and Nancy, and Bill's wife, Bronwyn. After dinner, the hosts decided to take advantage of the balmy night and suggested a stroll down to the swimming pool to show off a newly installed bronze statue of their son riding a dolphin. What the guests actually saw, as they rounded the corner into the walled garden, was the lithe form of Christine Keeler lifting herself from the pool and dashing across the patio, her feet making damp prints on the terracotta tiles. Profumo wasted no time in asking Bill for an introduction. Late that night, Keeler returned to London to pick up a couple more of Ward's girlfriends, and the next morning they were all driven back to Cliveden by the Russian naval attaché and intelligence officer Evgeny Ivanov. The group spent a lazy Sunday by Bill Astor's pool, where Ivanov challenged Profumo to a swimming race. Just before Keeler left that evening, Profumo, who, according to Ivanov, had been flirting outrageously with the young girl, asked for her contact details. Ivanov drove Christine back to Ward's flat, where the Soviet attaché would later claim they slept together. 2 days later, Profumo tracked Keeler down and arranged to meet her while his wife, Valerie, was visiting his Warwickshire constituency. It marked the beginning of a tepid, half-hearted liaison, which Keeler, who once cooked them sausages before they had sex in front of the television, described as a very, very well-mannered screw of convenience. The weekend at Cliveden was the first act in a drama that would bring down a government and change the course of British history. The apparent ménage à trois between the Minister of War, a Soviet spy, and a good-time girl made Cliveden synonymous with scandal in the collective consciousness of an entire generation. But the outraged headlines and lurid scoops of the Profumo Affair, as it came to be known, were nothing new. During its dawn in the 1660s, as much as its twilight in the 1960s, Cliveden was an emblem of elite misbehavior and intrigue. Indeed, the 350-year history of the house began when a powerful politician decided to build a secluded mansion in which to enjoy his affair with an ambitious courtesan not much older than Keeler. The courtesan was Anna Maria, Countess of Shrewsbury, and the politician George Villiers, Duke of Buckingham, a childhood friend of Charles II and one of the wealthiest men in England. When Buckingham bought Cliveden in the 1660s, it comprised 2 modest hunting lodges set within 400 acres of land. Over the following decade, he transformed it, landscaping the gardens and constructing a magnificent house as a monument to his scandalous affair with the Countess. The estate sits just 5 miles upriver from Windsor Castle and fewer than 30 from the Palace of Westminster in London, a privileged location that would be crucial to the lives of its residents. Its outlines have changed little since the 17th century, and then, as now, Cliveden is one of England's most breathtaking landmarks. To the southwest, the grounds overlook the Thames from the tall chalk cliffs that give the site its name. Over the centuries, it has also been spelt Clieveden, Clifden, and Cliffden. Further north, the cliffs, which are densely planted with oak, beech, ash and chestnut, dip into a hollow, and the gardens trail like skirts down to the water. At the top of these gardens, at the end of a long parterre and raised to an even more imperious height by an arcaded terrace, stands the house itself, an elaborate Italianate mansion, flanked by 2 wings and approached by road from the north down a long gravel drive. In April 2012, Cliveden became central to my life when my husband acquired the property. When it came into our possession, it was no longer a private residence. Cliveden had been reincarnated as a university and a hospital, and latterly run as a hotel. But amid its faded charms, there were clues everywhere to the past lives of the estate, most noticeably in the portraits of the house's former mistresses. In the great hall hangs a portrait of Anna Maria, the original inspiration for the house, a courtesan much maligned in her own time and misunderstood by subsequent generations. Carved into the staircase is Elizabeth, Countess of Orkney, a formidable intellect, power broker, and long-time lover to Britain's conqueror of 1688, William III. Augusta of Saxe-Gotha, the queen that Britain was promised and then denied in the middle of the 18th century, is immortalized in a painting over the grand staircase, while the 4th mistress, Harriet, Duchess of Sutherland, a glittering society hostess, and the closest confidant of Queen Victoria, presides over the dining room. Finally, hanging beside the fireplace in the Great Hall is John Singer Sargent's portrait of Nancy Astor, Cliveden's last great mistress, Britain's first female Member of Parliament, and one of the most controversial and colourful women in British political history. The struggles and sacrifices of these women, their juggling of outer image and inner life, are familiar and universal. Their privileges, however, were extraordinary. It is from their elite viewpoint that this book narrates the tumultuous events of the last 3 centuries: Restoration and Glorious Revolution, aristocratic rise and fall, 2 world wars, and the Cold War. Along the way, there are tales of fanaticism and fashion, of censorship, disease, slavery, and the unlikely correlation between gardening and warfare. As well as being a story about women and power, this book is also the biography of a house. Conceived by Stuart aristocracy, Cliveden later served as a counter-court during the power struggles of the Hanoverian dynasty, and in the 19th century became a crucible for a new brand of liberal politics while continuing to offer a safe haven for royalty. With the decline of aristocratic wealth, it was one of the first houses to be bought up by American money, and in the later 20th and 21st centuries, it has become part of a new commercial order in which my husband and I, Jewish and self-made, play our part. Throughout the narrative, Cliveden itself remains central, the constant character, and a defining presence in the...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?